Okay, great. So welcome to the kickoff webinar from our Widening Impact Spring 225 webinar series. I'll be talking about SolarHub's story from idea conception to the post-project ambitions and vision. So about a minute ago, I did start recording this webinar. And so the webinar is being recorded, and the intention will be to make this open access as a learning module. And so for the motivation, target groups, and the aims, so the SolarHub is what's called an Excellence Hub project. And one of the key aims for the Excellence Hub call was to strengthen innovation in widening countries. For the EU Innovation Fund, the proposals are evaluated based on degree of innovation using the classification of these 6 terms, ranging from limited to breakthrough innovation. And about 2 years ago, while discussing a follow-up proposal on innovation, I was having lots of detailed discussions with the Technology Transfer Office about innovation in widening countries, and specifically innovation in our ecosystem. And it became very apparent to me that while we were the leading innovation actors in our local ecosystem, we're excellent at incremental innovation. Typically, when people had ambitions to go beyond incremental innovation, they left and they went to an ecosystem, for example, in Western Europe or in the US. And so we had this brain drain. And so a lot of our good ideas were leaving. And so I thought, okay, as an ambition, it would be nice if we can advance our innovation to strong. And I use the word pioneering here, pioneering innovation actors, because specifically what I wanted to do was to create actors who were doing strong innovation and who were able to define pathways to strong innovation that others in our ecosystem could replicate. And this is just my own observation, not based on the literature. I'm an engineer. I'm not someone with a business or innovation background, but just observing what I see as the kind of 5 key characteristics for innovation are ambitions, capacities, ecosystems, networks, and vision. And so the ecosystems includes things like access to finance, the culture, and the policies, and so on. And so as per this table, what I see as the main differences between the enabling characteristics for incremental innovation and strong innovation are networks. And so specifically having diverse networks. And I think that when you have these diverse networks, you exchange information, exchange ideas, exchange experiences, and this exchange of information starts to give you insight. And this insight ultimately leads to vision, some strong vision. And so overall, what I would like to be trying to do within this specific webinar and also the webinar series more generally is to use network-enabled insight to come up with strong visions. And so for the target groups and the specific objectives, I initially started with 3 target groups: the Excellence Hub projects, the key stakeholders, the Widening Program, and then the solar energy sector. While I was working through the presentation yesterday, I found I had much too content. I started cutting content. And so I cut a lot of the content specifically targeting the solar energy sector because we had a lot of outreach to the solar energy sector already. And this webinar for us is unique because it is the first time that we're really targeting key stakeholders outside the solar energy and maybe agro-food sector. And so for the Excellence Hub projects, my goal is to catalyze collaborations and for also to share lessons learned for the key stakeholders of the Widening Program. And so as an Excellence Hub project, we are specifically being funded to increase innovation capacities in widening countries, not just within our own consortium, but more broadly. And so I thought it'd be nice if I can share my lessons learned such that other people can hopefully watch this webinar. This is why I'm recording it, so it can be made open access, and that we can increase the quality of EU widening proposals, also increase the impacts and support the efficient and effective implementation of EU widening projects. And so going back up here again, for me, a key idea is this networks and vision. So I want to strengthen our networks, and then these networks lead to insight. The insight leads to vision, and all this comes together to enable strong innovation. Okay, so a little bit about the Excellence Hub. And so we have been doing some background kind of mapping of the Excellence Hub. And so Deniz Değirmenci of Otugunam has done some data mining. He presented the results for me earlier this week. We're still trying to work through these, but has some very macroscopic information. Right now, there are 23 ongoing Excellence Hub projects, and this is well known. I think maybe what is less well known is that we have 341 unique institutions in these 23 projects. And the EC has committed about 117 million euros. So it's a fair amount of money being dedicated to this call. And additionally, we have a lot of institutions, almost 350 institutions. This was something that was easy for me to pull together. So this is 19 of the 23 EA Excellence Hub projects. We're working on coming up with information for the last 4. But this is, first of all, you have the short name, and then you have keywords that I pulled from the long name. So you can see that thematically, we are very, very diverse. And we cover things like health, the blue and maritime sectors, decarbonization, agro, food sector and water, cybersecurity, energies, decarbonization, materials, cultural heritage, laser technologies, and so on. And so when I look at this, what I see is our potential competitive advantages is that we are thematically diverse. This is what is really, really interesting to me. So within our own institution, we have really strong networks at the European level in the solar energy sector. This is where we operate. And what I want to do is to strengthen our non-solar energy networks. We are also geographically diverse. And so we span from Cyprus in the southeast of the Mediterranean up to the Baltics, going through the Balkans and Eastern Europe, up into the Baltics, and then back down into Portugal. And I think we also have some institutions from at least the Canary Islands. We have a shared excellence in preparing EU proposals and executing EU projects. And to me, this is also really, really important. I think everyone who has an Excellence Hub project has got to be a leading actor in your area and in the widening country. And so we want to be collaborating again with people who are really, really good. And then what kind of binds us together is that we have the shared commitment to strengthening innovation in widening countries. So I'm going to move through this slide relatively quickly, spend time on other slides. But basically, this is kind of the process we went through from the initial idea conception up into the kickoff of the project. And so we had the initial idea conception in March of 2021. And our project actually started on January 1st, 2023. And this is about 21 months that we went through. And so I want to specifically focus on this box down here in the bottom left-hand corner. This is what we were working on in November of 2021. Over the summer, we had a lot of discussions about the scope of the proposal. This is all internal before we contacted any other outside partners. And we talked about, do we want this to be solar, renewable energy? Because in our ecosystem, we have a really, really strong wind research center. We talked about decarbonization. And so we had lots of discussions. Okay, thematically, where do we want to define the scope? We also talked about many, many different footprints. We talked about like an Eastern Mediterranean footprint that may include Cyprus, Greece, and Turkey. We talked about maybe the Black Sea and the Balkans and Eastern Europe, maybe going up in the Baltics and also Portugal. Ultimately, we decided to go local and go for Greece and Turkiye. And part of this was because we had really strong historical collaborations with CERT and CRESS. And so we really liked collaborating with them. We trusted them. And this kind of became the initial scope. And so what we wanted to do was to have a balanced project. It was not going to be Turkish, it was not going to be Greek, but it would be a combined Greek-Turkish effort, and this is reflected in our budget allocation. And so before we invited any other partners, we said, okay, initially, let's think about 2 million to the Greek partners, 2 million to the Turkish partners. We'll take 200,000 to Gunam for coordinating. We'll reserve 400,000 for the leading partners, and we'll reserve 400,000 to allocate later. So again, you see this balance in budget allocation between the Greek and the Turkish partners. And so in December, we contacted CERT first, and they in turn contacted press. And so we secured CERT and press. In the same time that we had just started our discussions with CERT and press, we were contacted by TÜBİTAK. And so TÜBİTAK is our national science funding agency. It's also the national contact point for our EU-funded projects. And so they were running a capacity building project with IDI to specifically increase Turkey's success in EU-funded projects. And so this is they were TÜBİTAK and IDI were both horizontal actors, not unique to solar energy. And so we brought them in, and for this turned out to be really, really fortunate for us. As you will start to see, we had this really, really nice synergy. And for me, it was very much of a chance type of development, nothing that we planned, but it was more chance. In January, within the steering committee became Gunam as the coordinator, CERT, CREST, TÜBİTAK, and IDI. We defined the broad strategies, ideas, the proposal, and also our consortium building strategy. We agreed on the key characteristics of the consortium, the maximum number of partners that we wanted, also the balance between the different quadrants of the quadruple helix. So CERT became the Greek representative, and they were responsible for organizing the Greek side of the consortium. And Gunam is the Turkish representative, or is responsible for organizing the Turkish side of the consortium. And we followed a philosophy that I call think twice, invite once, and never uninvite partners. And so we've had instances in the past where we prematurely invite a partner, and we turn out later on wishing we had not done this. And so before we invited any partner in, we thought long and hard about whether or not we were positive we wanted to do this. We specified what their budget was, what their expected roles and contributions were. And so then in February, we elaborated the proposal. Toward the end of February, early March, we had some drama where one of our key industrial partners dropped out, and we had to find a replacement partner. We submitted on the 15th of March. The proposal was accepted about 4 months later in July. We went through the revisions to arrive at the grant agreement, which was done on the 5th of October, and our project started on the 1st of January 2023, so almost 2 years ago. So this is conceptually our SolarHub. And so the SolarHub consists of what we call 5 ecosystems. So 2 in Greece, Thessaloniki and Athens, and 3 in Turkey, Istanbul, Ankara, and Izmir. And so as people familiar with the Excellence Hub are familiar with, we classify our partners into one of 4 categories for the quadruple helix, either academic, business, public, or societal actors. And so we define 2 of our ecosystems as being central, and this is specifically Ankara and Thessaloniki. And for these central ecosystems, we complete the entire quadruple helix, which means that we have partners from academia, from business, from public authorities, and also societal actors. Istanbul, Izmir, and Athens are what we call satellite ecosystems. And for these satellite ecosystems, we have representation from academia and business. And another key idea is that, yes, we are a solar energy hub or a solar hub, but we were specifically targeting solar solutions for the agro-food industry. And so then you do see this word food here in the objectives. And so you do see some food and agro-food partners inside our consortium. So moving to the consortium, we have a total of 21 partners, 7 academic, 9 business, 3 public, and 2 societal actors. And so we did decide early on that we wanted to have a balance between a number of academic and business partners. If you count this up, we also have pretty good balance between number of between Greece and Turkish partners. So here you see the country. Here you see the hubs. This should actually be probably ecosystems, so the ecosystems that the different institutions are active in. This becomes the unique role and the capacities. And so focusing on the business partners, the first two are industrial associations. So they're umbrella organizations. The next 3, 4 actually become technology suppliers. So 2 from the PV sector and 2 from the solar thermal sector. The next 2 become pioneering end users from the agro-food industry, 1 Greek and 1 Turkish. So again, now we have agro-food actors inside our consortium. And then finally, we have IDI as our innovation and capacity building. For our public authorities, we do have the Ministry of Agriculture, and again, targeting the agro-food industry for our societal actors. The first one is an energy cooperative or energy community. The second one is a farmers association. Going back to our leading partners, so DLR is from Germany. We've had both from the Ankara and the Thessaloniki ecosystems, we've had a lot of long-term collaborations with DLR. And so this is a very, very natural choice for us. Solar Heat Europe, they actually represent the Greek solar energy industry. And so they're active in both Thessaloniki and Athens. And then finally, IDI is an Irish company. They have an office in Ankara. They do activities in Izmir. And the lead is actually living in Thessaloniki, and he's Greek. So you see that our leading partners, we did have organic connections to them, and they had a valid reason for being in our consortium. So this is a slide from our kickoff meeting on the 23rd of June, 2023. And I like this because it communicates our voting rights, which to me is a very, very important part of what we are trying to do and how we operate. And so we have a total of 5 voting members who are Greek, George and Vasiliki. 2 are Turkish, Rashid and Chara. And then 1 is Odysseus, who again, he works for an Irish company. He lives in Greece, and he does a lot of work in Turkey. So he becomes the tiebreaker. We positioned both myself as the coordinator and also Hande as the project manager and Work Package 5 lead as non-voting members. And our role is to seek consensus, to represent the interests of the consortium as a whole, and also to represent the interests of the European Commission. And so for me, I guess kind of philosophically, this is important because I do not see myself as representing the interests of the Turkish partners or of the coordinating institution. Rashid Turan is specifically responsible for representing the GUNAM as the coordinator and also the Turkish partners. So I like this because it communicates the voting and the decision making. Actually, though, although we're now in month 26, we've never had a formal vote. And every decision has been by consensus. And we're not rigid about who attends the steering committee meetings. We typically have anywhere between 2 and 3 people attending from each of these institutions. Additionally, we just added in Gundare, which is an industrial association, into the steering committee. So this is a screenshot at the end of our last steering committee. This is our 51st steering committee meeting on the 21st of January, so 10 days ago. And so the steering committee has been meeting regularly every 2 weeks. And so if you do the math, we're about 2 year project, 52 weeks per year. This says that if you do a meeting every 2 weeks, we should be at about the 51st meeting. Boom, 51st meeting. So again, we're meeting very, very regularly. And our meetings typically last about 1.5 hours. And here, again, you can see that you have Owner and Essen from Gundare, who were not actually on the previous slide. Salin and Abru are representing Tubitak and not Chara. Hara is from Surf, and she's actually now the Work Package 2 lead. And you have owner from Gunam who's leading task 3.2. And then out from the previous slide, you have Hyundai and myself and George and Vasiliki. This is at the end of about 1.5 hour meeting. If you'd gone back about half an hour earlier, I think there were about 4 more people who had attended, but who had to leave early. As you can see, everyone is happy. They're happy because the meeting is ending. This is our Gantt chart. I want to pull off some what I consider to be some of the key characteristics from this Gantt chart. And so we do have 5 work packages. Work package 4 is basically dissemination, exploitation, and communication. Work package 5 is the project management. And I'm not going to talk anymore about 4 and 5. I'm going to focus on work packages 1, 2, and 3. Work package 1 is strategy and policies. Work package 2 is building capacities, which has a strong kind of business component to it. Work package 3 is accelerating research and innovation. And so the work package 3 has 4 tasks. Each one is attached to a different research and innovation activity that we call pre-designs. And I'll be stepping through these 4 pre-designs in a few minutes. Moving up into work. And so this kind of becomes the most granular activities that we do. As we move up into work packages 2 and into work package 1, we become increasingly integrative. And so task 2.3, the main activity is in working with the pre-designs to develop a business plan. Task 2.2 is mainly an accelerator. And so the accelerator is working with these pre-designs in order to accelerate them to commercialization and also to link them with the other innovation actors outside the consortium. And then 2.1, competencies and skills. This would be things like training and also outreach to the public. And so one of our challenges is public acceptance. And so we are engaging with our key stakeholders and end users to better understand their concerns and to increase public acceptance. In work package 1, task 1.3, policies investments, one of the main outcomes is that we expect to have a bilateral Greek-Turkish call opening up next month that we've been working on trying to facilitate. Task 1.2 is our joint research and innovation strategies. And this is introverted in that we are focused on our strategies internal to the consortium. In contrast, task 1.1 is extroverted. It's our hub strategies. Now we're trying to integrate additional key actors outside of our consortium and develop a coherent hub strategy. Another key characteristic is that for the tasks inside work packages 1, 2, and 3, we have both a lead and a co-lead. And a Greek institution fulfills one role, and the Turkish institution fulfills the other. And so all of the tasks in work package 1, 2, and 3, they have participation, leadership participation from both Greek and Turkish institutions. And again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to connect these two, the ecosystems in Turkey to those in Greece. Another key characteristic is that the cells that have the black background are the deliverables. You see some ID. This is an internal deliverable. So internal deliverable are reports we review internally, but we don't actually submit formally to the European Commission. This is month 11 right here. And so by month 11, every single task in work packages 1, 2, and 3 had either a deliverable or an internal deliverable due. And this was really, really important for us because it got us moving really, really fast. And so in particular, this deliverable 1.4 due in month 6, this was an integrative deliverable that required input from every single institution in the consortium. And it was chaos trying to get this done on time. I think we're actually 1 or 2 months late in submitting this, but it was nice because it's a really, really good exercise to bring us all together. And so overall, having these deliverables and internal deliverables due over the first 11 months really, really got us off to a very fast start. Another key characteristic is you see how we end the project. And so we start by closing sequentially the task in work package 3. Then we move up to work package 2, and then we move up to work package 1. And so we are careful in that we try to minimize having multiple deliverables due in the same month. And so we try to stagger the due date of the deliverables. And you see that throughout the entire Gantt chart. But at the end, what we're trying to do is to move from the most granular activities, which are these research and innovation activities, and go and concentrate and synthesize the outcomes up into what we call the 2 capstone deliverables. One of the capstone deliverables is the hub strategies, and the second one is the joint research and innovation strategies. So for the collaboration tools, we talk a lot about how we're going to collaborate. We defaulted to Google Groups for email. I don't think it's a great solution, but it was the one that was kind of the least bad. And it's worked out sufficiently well. And so we have Google Groups, email groups for the entire consortium, for the steering committee, and so on. We use Google Drives. We have a top-down area for the entire consortium. We have bottom-up areas for each of the different work package and tasks that are managed by the relevant leader. Odysseus was very, very generous in that he created a Notion site for us. And this becomes our main kind of management and archiving platform. I pay, I think, about $180 per year for one person membership, and I can add as many guests as I want to at no cost. So this is a screenshot. So you see everything is really, really well organized. We have, for example, the grant agreement files. We also have the tracking of the deliverables, and we also have the meetings from the minutes. And so here you see the meetings from the steering committee meetings. Again, we're up to our 51st meeting. This is again a nice archiving tool. I'm going to move quickly through the next 4 slides on the pre-designs and basically give you some high-level information. If you want additional information, I do have contact information out here in the bottom right-hand corner. In terms of kind of the energy transition and decarbonization, there's been a lot of progress in decarbonizing the electricity sector. There's been relatively less progress in decarbonizing the industrial heat sector. And this becomes one of the challenges. How do you decarbonize industrial heat? And a lot of industrial heat, especially for the agri-food industry, is what we call low temperature heat on the order of like maybe 120 degrees Celsius or lower. And for these temperatures, you can use what are called flat plate or non-concentrating collectors. And both Turkey and Greece have some of the largest flat plate collector sectors globally. We're really, really strong in flat plate collectors. As kind of a gap, though, almost all of this is targeting the domestic sector. And so what we're looking at is, can we adapt our existing sector focused on the domestic industry or domestic end user into the industrial end user? And so they're making larger collectors and that are specifically more appropriate for industrial applications. This is the second pre-design. And so this is what we call concentrated solar thermal. This is a parabolic trough collector where here you have a mirror, and the mirror concentrates solar energy onto a receiver tube, and the receiver tube becomes very, very hot. And so this is used for higher temperatures. And in this case, what we are doing is we have what's called a hydrothermal liquefaction process, which converts agri-food residuals, where residuals can also be thought of as waste, into value-added products like bio oil and also fertilizers. And so we have a test rig that is mounted on a trailer. And so this can be brought around to different sites. And so this is specifically owned by SERV. And so they move this around different locations in Greece to get on to do on-site testing. I'm going to first present pre-design 4 and then go back to pre-design 3 because the two are both on agrovoltaics. And so I'm presenting pre-design 4 first because of this graphic right here, where at the bottom, you see the crop being grown. At the top, you see PV panels. And so you have the co-location of PV with agricultural crops. And what these PV panels can do is they can not only generate electricity, they can also manage the light and also the water for the underlying crop. And so if this is done properly, you can actually increase your crop yield. And another nice thing about this co-location is that it can be an additional revenue source for the farmers. And so this is, again, pre-design 4. And what makes it unique or different from pre-design 3 is the type of crops. So specifically, these would be like, I think they're called bushy crops or short crops, like tomatoes and watermelons and things that basically grow close to the ground. This is pre-design 3, which is also agrovoltaics, but this is different in that instead of like bushy or low-lying crops, they're targeting tree plants, so things like peaches and other types of plants. This is our accelerator program. And so we just completed our the first phase called the ignition phase that we ran in 2024. We concluded this in December. So like a month ago, we had what we call the demo day in Izmir as part of our General Assembly meeting. This was open to the public. And we had, I think, about over 150 people come in to this demo day. And some of the teams presented their solutions. We had other people from the ecosystem come in and talk about opportunities and needs. We are just transitioning now into the second phase called the momentum. And something that we're discussing a lot is our ability to open this accelerator program up to other Excellence Hub projects. And so we're not too sure about how to do this, but we think there's a lot of potential here to start to link multiple Excellence Hub projects under this accelerator program. And it would be nice if we can also find a way that this accelerator program and the capacities become sustained after the end of the project. And so this accelerator program doesn't end with the end of SolarHub, but it continues. And so for the current status, overall, we're on track. I think the biggest strength is that we've been really successful in catalyzing a lot of follow-up proposals. Several of these proposals have been successful. And so obviously these now ongoing projects become a way for us to sustain our collaborations after SolarHub ends, because SolarHub ends in about 2 years. Focusing more on areas that we're working on. Well, one of them, not surprisingly, is academic business collaborations. And ultimately, I think this is to be expected, that this is what we're kind of finding challenging. This is exactly why the European Commission funded us. Nobody's good at this. If we were good at this, they wouldn't open up the Excellence Hub call. So this is an area that we're actively working on. We're also making progress. And so we're better at this than we were when we started, but we still have a long way to go. One of our societal actors is a farmers association. And so especially for the agro PV solution, they are the key end user because we wouldn't be installing this agro PV on their cropland. And I think they rightfully are concerned about what does this mean for agriculture. And there's a lot of concern about public acceptance barriers. And so we need to engage with this farmers association in order to understand what their concerns are and also better understand what the opportunities are to bring this knowledge into our consortium and then to start to embed this inside our pre-designs. Not surprisingly, one of the challenges is that at best, a lot of the farmers maybe have a high school diploma. And so a lot of them, are not, do not have university degrees. They don't know English. I think if they attend one of our meetings, they think it's a complete waste of time and boring. And so we are working on developing ways to engage them. And for me, this is really important because it is something that we're not good at, but we need to be good at this. And so this is perfectly, I guess, what I consider to be a normal problem. And it's exactly why the commission is funding us. We did just we just passed the halfway point for our project. And so as Hande, our project manager, says, the first 2 years is very much about exploration. And we were kind of open-ended in what we were doing and we were exploring. getting to know each other, developing ways for us to collaborate. We've just started having discussions about the second phase, the closing phase. And we need to move from being open-ended and doing exploration into becoming targeted and constrained, because we need to be closing our project. And over the next 6 months, we're planning on having a lot of discussions about how do we close the project. And our goal is our RP2 ends in June. We want to have a clear strategy for how to close our project as we end RP2 in June. And obviously, we want to maximize our exploitable outcomes. So as one of our exploitable outcomes is the concept of HelioHub. And so I think many of you attended this Excellence Hub and Teaming Networking event that was held in Brussels on the 28th of November. Down here, you have, this is from the agenda. And for me, one of the key themes from this info day or this network event was to get us thinking about sustainability. We actually started talking about this about a year ago under what became the concept of HelioHub. And so we envision HelioHub to be a self-sustaining, dynamic, open, and inclusive solar energy excellence hub. And so this lives on kind of indefinitely. And we're still talking about, well, what does this exactly mean? How does it become supported? What's the funding and things like this? We have some ideas about how to do this. This is what we're working on. And so basically, we talk a lot about what is the state of the world the day after SolarHub ends. So specifically, January 1st, 2027, why is the world a better place because of SolarHub? And we think that one thing that we can do is HelioHub, and we want to be able to embed our accelerator program into HelioHub. We've had initial discussions with the Excellence Hub project ECHO. And so ECHO is on energy communities that just started last month in December of 2024. We have lots and lots of synergies with ECHO. And so after SolarHub ends, ECHO will continue for 2 more years. And I see this as one way to sustain HelioHub. And then we also have other EU and nationally funded projects and activities that we are looking to integrate into this concept of HelioHub. We have this Excellence Hub community. And so again, going back to this networking event from the 28th of November, another one of the key themes was the commission was encouraging us to develop an Excellence Hub community, similar to what happened with teaming. And so the teaming came up with the teaming club. And so I see 2 reasons to do this. The first reason is the commission wants us to do this. The commission is our customer. And if we do it, it makes the customer happy. And a happy customer makes your life easier. But I also think it is in our own interest to do this. And that if we establish this Excellence Hub community, we will benefit beyond just making the commission happy. I think it will create some new opportunities for us. We just created what we call the Foundational Working Group. We had our first meeting last week. We have our second meeting next week. And so this working group lasts until the 30th of June, about 5 more months. And we want to develop an initial concept for this community and also define a roadmap forward for what happens the day after this Foundational Working Group dissolves. And so I see this Widening Impacts webinar series as one of our key first activities because it is a way for us to begin to engage and to do overall mapping. So as a conclusion, again, what I want to do within SolarHub and within our kind of ecosystems more generally is to advance our capacities, to advance from incremental innovation, which we're really, really good at right now, to strong innovation, which we're not so good at. And to me, what is required to do this advancement from incremental to strong innovations is that we need to increase the diversity of our networks. And this is one thing I like about the Excellence Hub community is it is very diverse, lots of opportunities for cross-fertilization. And I think that through this cross-fertilization, you start to develop some unique insight. And this insight can lead to a vision, and the vision can be reflected in new proposals to the EU and other types of activities. So at this point, this is the end of my presentation. So I would like to thank you for your participation. I'm going to stop sharing, and if I will check the chat, if anyone had any questions in the chat, it's going to take me a second to work through this. I'll also try to open up the floor to any verbal questions. And let me see. So if people have questions, they can type them in. I'm trying to see if I can open it. Alternately, maybe if you raise your hand, I can unmute you. I'll wait about 1 or 2 minutes. See if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, we can end. And so while we wait, I can go back, maybe share this other slide. Okay, so the question is, how closely does HelioHub and SolarHub collaborate? And so right now, HelioHub is being seeded by SolarHub. And so it's an idea that we develop within SolarHub for what exists the day after SolarHub ends. We want HelioHub to be bigger than SolarHub. And so SolarHub, it has a defined consortium. It has a defined period of time. It ends December 31st. HelioHub is intentionally conceptualized to be more fluid. It can evolve based on the needs. And so we are seeding it through SolarHub. All of the key kind of actors right now are in SolarHub, but we want to use this as a mechanism to integrate external key stakeholders. And so we've had these open meetings where we've brought in key stakeholders, and there's no really good way for us to integrate this into SolarHub because they're not part of the consortium. But it is easy for us to integrate them into HelioHub. And so this becomes a way for us to engage. And I think that when you have some framework that enables an external key stakeholder to become part of something, it's much easier to engage them than if they don't have kind of a pathway to be involved. We cannot include them in SolarHub formally, but we can include them in HelioHub. And we use this as a strategy to engage them and to bring them in. And so that is the question or the answer about what we're doing with HelioHub. Again, we did decide to have this be a different name because we don't want it to be constrained by SolarHub. We don't want it to be constrained by the Excellence Hub call. We want HelioHub to represent the unique strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats within our Greek and Turkish hub, which may not perfectly align with what the commission had defined when they wrote the Excellence Hub call. I will again, so going back to the questions. Yeah, so thank you. This is Eleni. Eleni is both in SolarHub and she's also in ECHO, where ECHO is the Energy Communities Excellence Hub project. And so for me, this linkages between SolarHub and ECHO are really, really nice because I think we have 4 SolarHub institutions that are also collaborating or participating in ECHO. And so we have actually, I think, 4 institutions from Thessaloniki that cover the quadruple helix, plus Civitas from Turkiye. And so there is the International Conference for Renewable Energy Systems that will be in Thessaloniki on the 9th through the 11th of April. And what we want to do is to organize a special session that brings together the key actors. Yeah, so 5 common partners. Thank you, Odysseus. Also IDI, RDFCM, I think Electra, Surf, and Tubitak, if I counted them correctly. And so actually we see a really high concentration of Excellence Hub actors, specifically in Thessaloniki and also in Greece more generally. And a lot of these, we see strong synergies under an umbrella of like the food, energy, water nexus, also decarbonization. And we want to start looking at opportunities to bring these different projects together, where this ICRIS conference is one. And so if you go to our SolarHub webpage, there's actually, I think, a tab now for this conference. I think we will be following up to the Excellence Hub community about an invitation to contribute and collaborate on this conference. We also have other ideas, ways that we can collaborate. And so Eleni just put the link to our webpage on the conference in the chat, and so you can follow that. So I will show a slide that was I showed this before we started the webinar. This is the spring webinar series. We come up with our next webinar in 3 weeks, the 21st of February, and this is from Finniss Twins. And we have a total of 20 webinars scheduled. 19 are Excellence Hub, and 1 is teaming. Finniss Twins is actually a teaming project. And so for those of you who are familiar with this, I think a lot of us consider teaming to be like our big brother or big sister, and that we grow up as an Excellence Hub. We want to have a teaming project. And so Finniss is actually Finland and Estonia, moving up into the Baltics. And so this will, I think, I'm very interested to learn more about their project. We have Enno Tamar coming on the 14th. We have WaterWise and MetaCity scheduled sometime for May and June. And right now we're still working on the times for these other, I guess about 15 other projects. So we want to be scheduling a lot of these through the spring and maybe continue into the fall. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so I'll just go back to this key idea for me. Again, what I would really interested in doing is strengthening my networks into other areas outside of solar, outside of Turkey and Greece. And I think that within this Excellence Hub community, we have huge opportunities to think about ways to connect our projects, because we do share this commitment to increasing innovation capacities in widening countries. And I think we're also leading innovation actors. I mean, to me, just the fact that we have this project, the calls are hyper competitive, indicates to me that we're leading actors. I think that we can learn a lot from each other. We can also hopefully collaborate in some novel ways. And I hope that this collaboration leads to some insight, and this insight leads to vision, and the vision enables us to do strong green innovation. So I'll go back and check the chat, but assuming that there's no more questions. Okay, so comment from Joseph. We consider 2 types of collaborations in the E8 community: selected projects in similar areas, for example, health, more general project schemes related issues, follow-up schemes that could be help within sustainability. And so thank you. And this is, I think, a very good and relevant point. I can just personally say that I see lots and lots of opportunities to catalyze collaborations that benefit Excellence Hub projects. And we just need to be, I think, defining these and developing these opportunities. So for me, it's a really exciting opportunity, and I feel very fortunate to have this opportunity. I think there's many people in widening countries who would love to have these opportunities that we do. So unless someone speaks up quickly, I will close this. Okay, so thank you very much. I will be following up with the announcement for the next webinar in maybe 1 week time. Again, this is Finniss Twins, which is on smart cities. And so looking forward to collaborating with you in the future. Thank you very much. Bye.